In a world where the very mention of alchemy elicits scorn, Atelier Yumia dares to ask a very simple, important question. What happens when a passionate alchemist strives to revive a lost art in a society that despises it? This isn't just another JRPG though, it's a vibrant journey that seamlessly blends action-packed combat with the cozy charm of a slice-of-life anime. Atelier Yumia is the current latest installment in the Atelier series and stars our newest protagonist Yumia, a beautiful alchemist set in the world where alchemy is not practiced and at this point not even liked in this world. This episode will focus on my honest thoughts and review of Atelier Yumia, and I want to thank Koei Tecmo for gifting me an early copy of this game to be able to review for my community. So let's move on forward. So I got to talk about the story's premise, right? Essentially, with the current background knowledge that I know of the Atelier series, one thing I remember is in the earlier games, alchemy was great till it wasn't, and I believe Atelier Yumia is set into the some far distant future where alchemy has overall fallen from grace, almost becoming quite an outlawed practice. Now, you will actually notice this within the first like 2 or 3 hours of you playing the game, and you will notice how people actually act towards Yumia, almost just being outright disrespectful, not quite liking her at all, and just really showing this disdain that they have for Yumia as a person just because she's an alchemist, right? This does starkly contrast the earlier Atelier titles where alchemy thrived and was blooming, and we are now set into the other side of that coin where we're playing as a protagonist who finds herself quite alienated and is an alchemist in a world that just overall just rejects her craft. And as she continues to do more and more things for them, they start to realize that she's really not that bad. Now, the narrative does echo the series' roots overall, just exploring a period where alchemy's acceptance is tenuous. Despite the prevailing animosity, the heartwarming developments of Yumia's crew, Isla and Victor, which is by far some of my favorite casts that I've played for in a while, is quite a highlight that you would expect in this game. Their sibling-like banter and mutual support adds a delightful layer of personality and depth to the story. As Yumia proves herself and shows everyone she's not this big bad that they believe that all alchemists are, makes the story just a bit more enticing. The research team has a reasoning on why they don't like the alchemist due to a bigger major event that dealt with a mana explosion that destroyed a large town, and it's connected to somebody using mana or an alchemist. So it kind of just already broke off this disdain for anybody who does alchemy because they're seen as like all of your guys are bad and all it takes is one bad day to truly have something play out. And just overall seeing how Yumia is dealing with that disrespect and just feeling alienated and not really having friends, and kind of almost in the very beginning being forced to be very friendly with Victor and Isla because they don't like her. But as time goes on, Victor being like, you know, that bigger brother and just kind of being more like headstrong, he's now overall beginning to like Yumia as time goes on. And Isla, she was already, you know, cool at first. She had no issues with her. She was very friendly with her. But when you notice Yumia's around the other members of the team, you can just tell that like they're just like, ugh, what is this? What is this alchemist doing here? Right? Like, why are we even having her help us? But that's one thing about Yumia's personality is that it's quite intoxicating, to say the least. And that is also showing that all alchemists is not that bad. Now, one thing, I don't want to spoil the entire story of this game. So they do a great job at setting the scene. Like the tutorial is you literally, it's like a good storytelling because the game sets you in a far future part of the actual storyline where you have Yumia and her entire crew dealing with some big bads, and she gets immediately clapped towards the end of that tutorial, and then the game actually starts, and now we're picking up the pieces to lead back to that point. It is honestly one of my favorite set pieces that a lot of storytelling do, is where they start you off in the action first, and then you're just left at a cliffhanger of like, well, what's going to happen next? But by the time we can even figure out what happens next, boom, cuts to the title screen, Atelier Yumia, and I was like, son of a bitch, I was in I was literally locked in. The tutorial had me locked in. And one thing about the tutorial and further into the future of the game, I gotta talk about the gameplay. This is probably by far some of the best gameplay I've seen for the Atelier series, and I feel like with each new installment, they are finding ways to make the game more refreshing and fun. So let's talk a little bit about the gameplay and some of the bits and pieces that you'll actually notice while you're playing. So let's talk a little bit about the combat. So traditional turn-based combat of the Atelier series has been immensely reimagined in Atelier Yumia. Combat encounters now offer free movement within an instance, allowing for dynamic positioning and strategic attacking. You can also utilize skills that can be used multiple times or once before it has to go down on a cooldown. And Yumia and her team ability to shift between ranges adds a tad bit more tactical depth to how you go about combat. So when you're actually in combat, you can actually swap between your characters mid-fight and just utilize some of the alchemically crafted tools that Yumia has crafted prior beforehand to enhance your combat experience. So yeah, like the overall combat is honestly some of the fun I've had with the Atelier series, and I feel like we are now becoming more innovative with how we do combat. And one thing that I was immediately playing and I noticed was just how the system works, right? So the system feels like it's a brilliant fusion of the ATB system from the Final Fantasy VII remake, specifically the remake, and the real-time action, because it is not just your simple attack, wait your turn, attack. It is things are happening in real time. You must dodge. There's timed dodges that you have to do. There's being able to take advantage of the enemy's weaknesses, whether you're in the close range or long range. And there's a little bit of that strategicness to the elements, being able to like truly swap between different characters, see who can deal the most damage at a given time. You can even stun enemies in the overworld. So when you're overall exploring the world, you will come across these different like plethora gatherings of enemies. You can actually use Yuma's staff, which counts as a gun, to be able to shoot the enemy, shoot them enough till their shield breaks and then they're stunned. Then that would give you some preemptive buffs and to deal even more damage to them as time goes on. So that is one thing I can definitely say that I really like about the combat. It's just like being able to have that option. It is something that is always seen in a lot of JRPGs, but just seeing it more and as it's currently evolving as time goes on, really putting power back into the player's hands. And of course, there is no random encounters. If you want to encounter an enemy to level up, you can. I was actively exploring heavily a lot and fighting plentiful amounts of enemies just to get the, level up as much as I need to. Now, leveling up comes in multiple ways. You can overall just level up with your actual character, but you can also has the skill tree, right? So the skill tree is divided into exploration, combat, and synthesis, which offers some deep customization. Each of these tiers basically overall just impacts how Yumia does things and throughout the entire game. If you continue further adding skills into the exploration, she will get better at gathering resources, and if you put attribute points into the combat, she would get better at combat, or the team itself would get better at combat. And synthesis, she would just get better at alchemy over time. So it is something that is pretty cool every time, just by you're rewarded for exploring the game. Now, one thing I will say before I go into my next point, the very boss battle you have, and I think this boss battle takes place, I think I clocked it at around 7 hours by the time I reached this boss battle, was the Vesper boss battle. Now, a little bit of a spoiler. I, at this moment, don't know exactly what he is. I just know he's a cool dragon-looking boss. But the Vesper boss battle serves as a perfect test of your mastery, demanding a blend of close and long-range tactics, and as well as character swapping. And then there's a nice moment where you have to like 1v1 him with just Yumia alone without your party, and it's like, holy shit, I died at least maybe 3 or 4 times fighting this motherfucker, because I'm like, bro, what is going on? It solidifies just this innovative combat system as a significant step forward for JRPGs. Now, my next point goes into actually the biggest cornerstone of any Atelier game, especially the most recent ones, which is exploration. It is a core pillar of Atelier Yumia. Just like in any other recent Atelier games, the game boasts a vast open world filled with so much materials for alchemy It also has a dynamic day and night cycle, which influences like your enemy spawns and resource availability. There are fast travel points, zip lines to streamline that traversalness with seamless load time free transitions. Honestly, fast travel in this game is a godsend, right? The fact that I can fast travel to any area in the map without a load screen, it's just instant. I'll say not even 2 or 3 seconds. Thank you, devs, for not wasting our time when we're trying to zip and zoom and get stuff done. I've seen too many games where like you fast travel and you have to load like crazy, kind of slowing down just the overall transitional period. Exploration also extends to discovering different like ruins and hidden locations. Each of these locations are filled with puzzles, rare materials, and opportunities for a little bit of level grinding because there's always different monsters that you can be able to fight. There's also base building, which allows players to construct and customize their alchemist haven, unlocking different landmarks to create unique base layouts. With exploring being a major part of the game, we also got to talk about the alchemy and the synthesis that you could do with Yumia, because that's another major part of this game. Not only is the combat be reimagined, exploration is massive, but the other big part of the entire point of the Atelier series is alchemy. How can you play a game about alchemists and not actually do alchemy? And I feel like in Yumia, this is actually my favorite way of doing alchemy. Synthesis is seamlessly integrated into the gameplay, allowing for like this on-the-go alchemy with simple synthesis options. Players can craft custom recipes to create essential gear, recipes, and much more. Each landmark, or as the game calls it, mana-bound areas, which mana-bound areas are essentially areas that are so heavily filled with mana that it can honestly, I think it can kill people or it can just make them pass out. And because Yumia is an alchemist, she can actually protect the entire party for a limited amount of time while you're traversing these mana-bound areas. Once you get to the major altar that she can be able to stop all the mana in the area, we can use that area as a landmark and as a simple base of operations. So you can have bases of operations everywhere, and you can build different housing areas for these bases so that no matter where you're at in the world, you have a place to be able to synthesis, to allow you to do your alchemy, allow you to, do whatever you need to do, restock back up, all that good stuff. So that's actually a really fun gameplay mechanic that they allowed. And honestly, performing alchemy is one of my favorite things to do in this game, allowing me to actually customize the value and power of each gear we create. This just further enhances the fun of exploring to be able to craft new stuff along the way. Now, with the major bit of the gameplay out of the way, I gotta talk about how good this game looks. Atelier Yumia maintains the series' signature slice-of-life aesthetic with this vibrant, colorful visuals. The pause menu is playful, has all the characters in their poses, and it's been too many times Yumia was just bending over on the pause menu so you could see some assets, if you catch my drift. It definitely adds a unique touch, reminiscent of the stylish user interfaces of Persona games, by the way. Persona games, in my opinion, has some of the best pause menus in all of gaming. And I feel like Atelier Yumia just is trying to get that same type of craft, to just really showing that not only is the game is a part of the lore, the pause menu is part of that lore as well. The audio though, master class. It is cozy, melodic. The piano tracks and warm tones create quite an immersive atmosphere, perfectly complementing the game's slice of life vibe. Because I don't know if y'all are catching that vibe, but I've been catching this vibe the entire time I've been playing this game, and it just feels like I'm playing an anime that is a slice of life with a little bit of combat, right? Character models are beautifully shaded, their designs are distinct and memorable, continuing the recent Atelier games trend of striking visual palettes. The cast of characters and their interactions are just genuinely engaging, enhancing the overall experience. But one thing to note, jumping into Atelier Yumia, I was immediately struck by how fresh and engaging the combat felt. The seamless blend of action and a little bit of strategy, combined with the overall charming world and the characters, made it hard to really put down. Like, I've been playing a shit ton of this game, and can't wait to fully beat it. The Vesper boss fight in particular was some of my favorite of this game. Just being able, like, he was just this menacing thing, and it was just awesome just seeing everybody just going to town on him and swapping between all the different characters trying to do everything. It just really, at that point, really show like you need to understand how combat works in this game, and he was that true test to that. And I'm pretty sure there will be more and more as I further get through this game. My initial impressions, though, of Atelier Yumia was just overwhelmingly positive. Like, I do not have not one bad thing to say. And I've been trying to look at it with a keen eye. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I can't find anything bad. If you guys have played the demo, what did you guys think of the game itself? Because so far, the game successfully revitalizes Atelier's formula with its dynamic combat, the engaging exploration, heartwarming story. The visuals and audio are also top-notch, creating just a truly immersive, enjoyable experience. If you're a fan of JRPGs, though, especially those with a focus on crafting and exploration, Atelier Yumia is a must-play. Like, I highly recommend to go buy this game. Its innovative combat system, charming characters, beautiful world makes it a standout title. Whether you're a longtime Atelier fan or actually new to the series, you'll find something to love in this overall adventure. Like I said, if you are still on the edge, they do have a demo out, and that if you do complete the demo, your save file will carry on over to the actual game. So if you're still on the fence about it, check the demo out, play it yourself. I highly recommend to just go play it, because I know I like darker stories, which this game it's getting dark. It's getting there. I don't want to spoil too much, but it is getting dark. The game has a lot to show. And I feel like with some of the things, like if you're not a fan of like coziness, but with a little bit of combat, you probably may not like it. But I really feel like a lot of people will enjoy this game. I'm really enjoying it. I can't stop gushing about this game every time I play it, every time I talk about it. I can't wait to fully beat it just so I can just have that experience and just, holy shit, that was a fucking blast. But I also want to let everybody know that I do have a community Discord where we talk about all things RPGs. So I definitely want you to go check out that in a link below. And if you want more RPG content, then subscribe to the channel for more. But let me know what you think of Atelier Yumia. If you already played the game, if you played the demo, let me know. Therefore, stay safe out there. And it's been your host, Chaos DTV, signing out. Peace.